Hi, welcome to the first of our videos for administrators and coaches on managing and setting up your platform in 3DEXPERIENCE. We're going to go through some of the basics in this video of how to get the platform set up and ready for your students so that you can begin inviting your students to the program and get them started on their design project. If you're watching this video, you should have already received an email with a link connecting you to your new platform that's been assigned to you by Dassault. By selecting that link and by logging in to 3DEXPERIENCE, you should be looking at a page very similar to this one. If you're not seeing a page like this, well, that's not a big deal. All you have to do is change your dashboard. If you notice up here, it's showing that I am using 3D Dashboard, and the dashboard is just this page we're looking at right here. So we're going to come up to this drop-down menu here, and what you want to do is look for Platform Management. It's a dashboard containing all the tools you're going to need to manage your platform. So select that and it'll bring you into this dashboard. Now, I'm actually using an up and running platform right now. So if you notice, there's already 181 members. At the time when you log in, you're not going to see nearly as much information on some of these pages as I'm seeing right now. But I wanted to leave it here anyway so you can see what it's going to look like, and you can see some of the tools you're going to have as you manage your platform. So right here from the get-go, we're looking at the first of our tabs on this dashboard called My Platform. There's not a whole lot you can do on this page. There's a few things. We can rename the page if we'd like to, and I don't, so I'm going to hit cancel there. You can select this button here to go straight to the Invite Members page. And you can also upgrade your storage, which you shouldn't have to do in an academic program anyway. First thing we do want to do to begin setting up this platform is to invite members, but I'm actually not going to use this button. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my Members tab, which has all of the same information. So what you see here is you see a general list of all of the members that on this platform. But what we want to do here is we actually want to invite members. Now there's two ways that we can invite members, and I'm going to show you each of these. So make sure you bear with me so we can cover all of this. But the first thing is to invite members individually with this button here. And essentially it just brings up this window, and I can begin putting in the emails of any individual that I want to have access to this page. Now I've put in an email, and all you have to do to put it multiple into this window, you can put in a semicolon like it shows. You can hit tab or you can hit enter. All of those will cut off the first of my emails, and then it's just ready to put in the next one. I'm just going to put in the one for now. It's just a fake email. But I could put in up to 10 individuals into this one field. And now just going down the fields here, the next one is the user rights. User rights is what determines the editing rights that this person will have on your platform. So you, right now, will have administration rights. And if, for whatever reason, you're watching this video, you don't have administrator rights yet, and you should, make sure you contact someone from Dassault, your Dassault representative, to help you with that. Or if you know an individual who does have administrator rights to your platform, they'll be able to help you as well. But that's the one that actually has the ability to change all of these things in platform management. They're the only ones who have access to this dashboard. The other two roles, or user rights, excuse me, are member and contractor. Now the difference between those for your purposes is really nothing. The difference in the roles is meant to be members as an individual, an actual employee of your organization, where a contractor is some external individual who also will be working on the project. The access they have is basically equivalent, and in your case should be exactly equivalent. So we don't have to worry about those too much here. But essentially, we recommend only having the necessary individuals be administrators, the people you actually expect to be needing to invite members or correct their access or things like that, and assign everyone else, including coaches, students, TAs, etc., as a contractor or a member. Other two fields here is just the location of the people you're inviting and the language. One thing to keep in mind with these settings here is that these settings will be applied to every email you put in this field up here. So make sure you're not trying to do administrators and contractors, members at the same time. All right, so we have an email in here. We have our settings. We can put in a message if we want to. That'll show in the email when it's sent, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So I go ahead and hit next, and it brings me to this page, which allows me to assign roles to the members that I just invited. Now, roles determine the apps that the members will actually have access to while using 3DEXPERIENCE. So those apps would be things like part design, assembly design, composite, layup, requirements, all of the different programs that help students in different parts of the process. Now we actually just recommend assigning all of the available roles. There's only 12 or 15 of them available here to all of your members. Though what's really important is that the members have at least 2 of the roles. And I'll actually, if I select the Essentials client here, you notice it automatically assigns 2 of those 2 roles. It's this Industry Innovation role and this Business Innovation role. They need those 2 roles just to have any access to 3DEXPERIENCE at all. So it's important that they have at least those roles. If you have judges on your platform who will be accessing the students' models and their other information, they should be able to do essentially everything that they're going to need to do with just these 2 roles. They won't give someone editing rights, but they will give them viewing rights to some of the things that the students will have on here. So I can assign that. If I hit OK, you notice that we now have these boxes checked, which actually show what I've assigned to this person. And as soon as I'm done assigning the roles, and I can go through each of these as I move down, I go ahead and select the invite button, and as soon as you select that, emails will be sent out to all of those individuals, inviting them to log in and access your platform. I don't actually want to do this because it's a fake email, so I'm going to hit cancel. As soon as the individuals actually join your platform, they'll begin to show up in this list here, and it shows their name. Sometimes it will show their email address, and then it will show their user rights as well. And it gives me this nice little box so I can keep track of each of these individuals. There's also this little button here for details, and I'm going to go ahead and select that. If you make a mistake, this is where you want to go to change the user rights of a member, give them additional roles. If you move some of the roles that they don't need access to, I can do that there. It also has things like removing their access from the platform if for some reason an individual stops participating, leaves the program, it needs to be removed. This is where you can do those kinds of things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and select the X. We're going to hop out of this person's membership page, and that's really it for managing your members. We do want to go over here and show you, though, the Import Members button. This is the second method for inviting new members to the program, and it makes it much, much more convenient for platforms with a large number of users. So if you notice, it's essentially the same type of setup, but the difference here is that we're actually going to use an Excel document to invite all of the members. So there's an example button that will bring up this nice little sample Excel document, and this makes it much easier because we can just include the email addresses of each of the users, the rights we want to give them, which you see here is admin, member, and then we can also give them an agreement status, which for your program, employee or contractor is essentially the same. You can use either one, and they'll get the access that they need. This makes it convenient so you can import large lists of individuals, and you can actually classify their user rights for each individual person, rather than worrying about getting only groups of administrators or only groups of members in one go. Going back to this page, you can also, again, you can set their location, their language, and add a message of your own. And if I were to import individuals and hit next, it would take me to that exact same assign roles page and allow me to assign those positions. So that's the second way to invite members to your platform. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the content. Okay, this is the content page. And essentially what this allows you to do is define how the content on your platform is going to be organized. And the way that content is organized in 3D Experiences is by something called collaborative spaces. Now, I'm going to go into much more detail on this on the dashboard management video. But for those of you who have not seen that, a collaborative space is essentially a part of the cloud, a part of the platform that's been set aside for only certain members. So the way these work is you can set up one of these. Generally what you want to do is set up one of these for each of your teams and give each of the teams access to one collaborative space. And you can set all of these collaborative spaces, you can give them a setting called private, which will make it essentially invisible to the other teams. The reason you would do this is to keep the projects separate from each other, keep the parts separate from each other, and really just make it much more easy for the students to access their work. And so there are some settings that we can do here. The first one here is change ownership. There's going to be one individual who is responsible for or has ownership for each of the collaborative spaces you create. There's different ways of doing this. You could set the person with ownership as the coach of the team or the team lead. It gives them certain editing rights for their collaborative space. Or you can just leave it as yourself. The situation where you actually have to edit a collaborative space does not come up all that often and should not be a big deal to just leave in connection with yourself. The other tab here is the Create Collaborative Spaces button. And what this essentially does is it'll give you a page very similar to this one, and it allows you to change the creation rights of the members on your platform. Only certain individuals will be allowed to create a new collaborative space. And one of the reasons we do this is one collaborative space is generally plenty of space for a team to function in. If the ability, though, to create new collaborative spaces is left up to everybody, often what happens is you end up with way too many collaborative spaces for what you're dealing with, and it just becomes much more confusing. So we would suggest leaving the Create Collaborative Spaces rights only on the administrators and perhaps the coaches for your program. If the need arises where an extra collaborative space needs to be created, for example, one simply for practice parts for the students to simply play around in, you can create that yourself and make that available for the students. I'm actually not going to go into this Create Collaborative Spaces section. It's a very straightforward section. However, we're trying to protect email addresses that are visible in that section. Okay, so the last thing really that we have to cover for setting up your platform is the actual creation of collaborative spaces. You're actually going to want to create collaborative spaces and assign each of the users to their respective collaborative space before you start getting all of the students in your program. So what we're going to do, and I go into this in more detail in the dashboard management video, so you are welcome to watch that and you'll see more how this is done. But since you do have the ability to create collaborative spaces, we're going to show you how to do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create a new dashboard, and you can do that just by selecting this box. You can go ahead and put in the name here. If I were to just call it test, I'd be able to create that dashboard and hit create. Okay, so now I have my new blank dashboard, and what we want to do is we want to actually add what's called a widget to this dashboard that's going to allow me to work on my collaborative spaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to this compass thing in the top left corner. We're going to select my social and collaborative apps, this top end of the compass. And that's going to pull up all of my different apps, all of my different programs. You'll learn to use this side menu much better later on in our video series. But the first thing I want to do is I want to look for this app or this widget rather, called 3D Space. And you notice the widgets are actually denoted by this arrow in the corner. I'm going to grab that and just drag it out into my dashboard. And it's going to go ahead and claim some of the space here. And I'm just going to close this side window now. And I want that to be a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to grab the corner, make sure it takes up the whole space. And what you notice here is I actually have here a list of collaborative spaces already available in one of my platforms. If any of you have access to multiple platforms and you're in your 3D Space widget, you'll see them as these dark folders up in the corner here. So I'm going to switch to my other platform, and what you notice here is I actually don't have access to any of the other collaborative spaces in this platform, so this just shows up as a blank slate for me to work with, which is just great for me. Now, if an individual does have the ability to create a collaborative space, you'll actually see this drop-down menu up at the top here. The students that don't have this access aren't going to be able to see this, but I can come up here and say New Collaborative Space. And so this little window pops up, and I can come up here and give this a title. I'll just call this Team 1. I can come down here and give a description, space for Team 1. I can determine its visibility. By default, that visibility is set to private. If I set it public, it will automatically be available for everyone on the platform. Leaving it private makes it very convenient because it just does not even make it visible to other members. And I can decide the family. By default, that's design. I'm just going to leave it like that. Then let's go ahead and I'm going to select create. And you have to give it a moment usually to update, but that should appear here. There it is. Alright, so I can now come here and I just select on that drop down menu right there, and I can add members, I can edit the properties, etc., etc., and I can actually get this working. So if we come down here and add member, it's going to ask me how I want to add a member to this page. What you really only want to use are these two down here. The leader and owner, of course, this is going to be someone who has more access to changing some attributes of the collaborative space. And an author is someone who actually has the ability to create items in that space. So for your students and for your coach, you want to use these two here. The leader and owner has all of the rights that the author does. The final group is a contributor, and this is just someone who's supposed to be essentially giving input, but isn't really designed for them to be creating material within that space. So a contributor might be appropriate for a judge or someone who's only supposed to really be able to get in there to see things. But again, for the vast majority of what you're going to be doing, leader and owner or author is the way you're going to want to do that. You'll put in the email address again and add the member, and that's essentially it for setting up and operating a collaborative space. Alright, and with that, we've covered all of the basic information that you need to know to set up a platform and get it ready for your students to use for your program. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, you're able to access any of our help materials. There will be a video on help materials coming shortly. The one I would recommend, though, for most of your questions is just the documentation, which you can find at help.3ds.com. It'll ask for your version number, and you go ahead and put that in, and it'll give you access to this page. And you can see on the left here, here's where you can find all of the information on managing your platform, including information on inviting members, and maybe some of the fields that I wasn't able to go into in detail. Thank you.